we gonna do today, guys? Well, clearly, I'm not playing any games today. I have, in fact, my nerd stuff here with me. And what I thought I would do, what I thought would be pretty fun, would be to show you guys how I create an adventure for tabletop role-playing games. I can't actually say that I'm making D&D content because I'm not, because it's not actually the Hasbro game that I'm working with here. I'm using something called Old School Essentials. Whoops, there we go. I love this game. It's like someone took the first edition of everyone's favorite classic role-playing game and took all those arcane rules and cleaned them up and presented them so nice that it becomes a joy to play instead of a cryptic enigma to understand. You don't need a degree in Gygaxian English anymore to play these old style games. I also like these old games because they're much less rules heavy than 5th edition is. Hi, Hazel Bakes, how are you? Yeah, so today I'm going to be creating an adventure. I don't even know what kind I'm going to be creating. I'm going to go rely completely on the process that I use and some random tables, and we'll see what we're going to come up with. Hi, BB. Hi. So, the process that I use, I borrowed from a guy called Professor Dungeon Master from YouTube, and it's his quick adventure prep setup, which I actually thought was very clever. He described a procedure where we take 2 random encounters and what's the book I'm using? It's called Old School Essentials. I am making a D&D adventure, and I'm going to describe the process of it, and we're going to see what we come up with at the end of the process. So Professor Dungeon Master says in his quick session prep, take 2 random encounters and then see what kind of conflict can come up from those 2 encounters. So we're gonna stretch our imagination as hard as we can right now. So let's see. We've got 10 different biomes here. So we're going to roll this 10-sided die. We've got 6. So we can say that our conflict is taking place in a jungle. So that's the first thing we're going to write down. This conflict is taking place in a jungle. And it's good to make notes as you go, because sometimes you're going to have to go back to your previously laid out ideas in order to tie in information. So now that we know that whatever conflict is happening, whatever adventure is going on is taking place in the jungle, we can work with that now. So let's see. We're going to roll this 8-sided die to see what kinds of things are involved in this conflict. So the first one, the first party of this conflict is an insect. We're going to go look at what kind of insect. Here we go. I think, right? Oh no, it's right here. I'm lying. I'm right. So I'm going to get a 20-sided die. And the die says 4. So the first, okay. So our first party involved in this is a tiger beetle. Alrighty. So then if we go back to the jungle and we pick the other party, we figure out what the other party is. We got an 8, which means monster. We're going to go look at table J. this 20-sided die. And we got a 12. Oops. So for those who don't know what these things are, we're going to go look that up right now. A tiger beetle is like a very large insect that's predatory. I don't know if we'll have a picture of it. It would be cool if we did, because then I could show you what a tiger beetle looks like. But more than likely, I don't have a picture of a tiger beetle. Tiger beetle, carnivorous, 4-foot-long tiger stripe beetles with powerful crushing mandibles. They sometimes eat humans. Alrighty. So let's write down these stats for this tiger beetle so we know what we're working with. And really, I just want to know how hard it is to hit, how hard it is to kill, and what kind of damage it does when it hits people. It actually could kill a person in one bite from what I'm looking at here. So now let's go look at the Otyugh. From what I remember of my D&D lore, the Otyugh is a nasty little monster. Let's see, let's go look. Maybe we have a picture of this guy. Otyugh, yeah, we have a picture of him. See this guy right here? Poking up out of the earth? That's an Otyugh. The Otyugh is an aggressive, semi-intelligent, hulking monstrosity with 3 stumpy legs, eyes on long stalks, and a mouth lined with fangs. They lurk underground in piles of carrion which they consume, but they want fresh meat. This thing is really dangerous. This is way worse than that tiger beetle. Holy shit. So now we have our 2 parties that are involved in this conflict. We have an idea of their relative, I guess, strength levels or how dangerous each one is. I'm just going to roll to figure out. This gives me a range of hit dice from 6 to 8. So I'm going to roll the 6-sided die. On a 1 or a 2, it's 6. On a 3 or a 4, it's 7. And on a 5 or 6, it's 8. So this is on the weaker side of Otyughs. This is as weak as they can get. Let's see. I literally just want to see the base stats, the very basic stats. Yeah, this thing is going to devour the tiger beetle for sure. We're going to figure out how many of each side are involved in this conflict as well. That's Discord in the background, because of course I'm on Discord. Let's see. Oop. Right. So we're still writing out these notes. So the Otyugh has, there's only one of these things. Thank God. Thank fucking God. But how many of these beetle things are there? Tiger beetles. We could have 2d4 of them. So let's go, we got 4. There are 6 of these things. All right. So now we have this situation where there's something in the jungle, or there was a scene in the jungle where this nest of tiger beetles came into contact with this really nasty monster. Now, why does that matter? How do we build an adventure out of that? Well, an adventure means that there's something to do, and it also means that it's significant enough that it affects a settlement. So we kind of need this situation to be happening nearby an area where there are people, where there's civilization somewhere. So why don't we roll up a small town nearby? Why don't we do that? This is the Tome of Adventure Design. I highly recommend this book to any dungeon masters out there who strain their brain sometimes. It's a really fantastic resource, and I highly recommend it. So, right, what am I doing? I want a town. We want a town. Uh-oh. We'll be right back. We'll have to deal with that later. Let's see. Oops. I want to show myself. I'll try and show off the books I'm using. There we go. Right. So we're getting back to rolling up a town real fast. And to do that, we need the tables for town creation. So here we go. We want cities 267. City map generator. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. So why don't we figure out what the big part of this city is first? What is this little town famous for? And this little town, we're going to have to figure out a name for it later. We'll just write this down. We remember that our town is either in a jungle or next to a jungle, so that may affect the decisions we make later on about what to place in this town and the people that may exist in it. So, rolling a 25 on this table about what's the big area of this town, we have a big marketplace. And we're going to build most of our town around the idea that this little town in the jungle is known for its market. So why don't we figure out some of the customs of this town? Let me do that. Here we go. Well, for one, let's figure out what they're proud about. In order for us to have an idea of how the people in a town act, having a few notes about how the people are or their customs goes a long way to giving you stuff to work with when you're running a game. So the people of our town in the jungle are super proud of their beer, proud of their tavern or beer, or both. Okay. Let's see. Unusual domestic animals used. Let's see. So I think this is our first tie-in to this adventure. This town in the jungle has domesticated giant beetles. Right, we are playing a fantasy game, right? So some of these things that we're going to roll up, or some of these ideas are going to be kind of stupid or silly, or they're not going to make a lot of sense. And our job is to stretch the imagination as much as we can to make it do something that resembles having a coherent idea. So our little town in the jungle has this large market. They're real proud of their beer. And the domesticated animal of their choice are giant beetles. So that gives you an idea about what kind of people these are, right? They probably party a lot. They probably spend a lot of time shopping. And instead of having ox or sheep, whatever, they have beetles, which probably they use to like move things, or maybe they ride them around. Beasts of burden, anything that we would imagine a beast of burden doing, they probably have these giant beetles for. So that's kind of interesting. Let's stick with that. Let's take that. And we'll roll up one more. We'll take an odd behavior and figure that out. Not that it's very important, but when our people in this town in the jungle agree with each other, they snap their fingers. So I think at this point we have enough flavor of our town, and we have an idea why this conflict may be affecting this town. And we can continue on from there. Snap fingers. So now how do we work with this? Well, perhaps the domesticated animals that this town uses are a version of the tiger beetles in the jungle. So perhaps this town relies on the local tiger beetle population. Maybe they capture young specimens of the tiger beetles. Maybe they catch eggs or something. Maybe they raise small infant tiger beetles, and this is how they domesticate them. And the fact that this Otyugh is out here in the jungle, I'm going to just say decimating the local tiger beetle population, maybe that's affecting this town. So that's a great hook to start off an adventure. Let's see. We're going to write down that the problem, the conflict, an Otyugh, this horrible monster, moved into the area and has begun feeding on the tiger beetles that inhabit this jungle area. That's pretty interesting. So, and because our town relies on these giant beetles for, as their domesticated animal, we can immediately see why this is presenting a problem. Does this work? I guess that works. That's fine. So why don't we now figure out who the patron is who's going to give us this idea or give us this quest? And that gives us the person who tells our players about the problem in the town that's facing this town. So for this, I'm actually going to need 3 10-sided dice. So we're just going to roll this guy 3 times. So the first roll is a 4. Let's write that down, because I will forget. Next is a 5. And the last is a 4. So we have 4, 5, 4. So let's take a look at who patron number 454 is. According to my roll here, so okay, there is someone visiting the town, a journalist, and he has heard about maybe the famous beer of this town, right? He came here specifically to document this town's magnificent beer. We're gonna have to figure out what's so special about this beer that it would draw journalists in later. But for now, we know that this person came here to write about the famous beer of this jungle town, and he learned from the locals that they're having problems with this monster in the jungle that's consuming and attacking their the tiger beetles that they rely on for the domesticated beetles of the town. At this point, I think we need to figure out a name for this town. So I might go to Roll for Fantasy. This website is called Fantasy Name Generators. I recommend this to any author or creative person who struggles with coming up with stuff. So let's see. Would be cool if we could get a little name here. And I'd like a South American town. Okay. So our town in the jungle is called Tricas. Tricas, the town of Tricas. We can develop that more as we need to, but for now, having the name, I can stop calling it Little Town in the Jungle. Now it's the town of Tricas, so that we have a little more solid of a foundation to give to the players. Right. So at this point, we have an idea about what this conflict is. We have an idea about the way it affects the town. And we have the person who's going to inform our players about the conflict that's taking place here. Let's go look at the information for the tiger beetles. Let's go take a look at that. So tiger beetles, they have a treasure tiger for you. Let's go write that down. And O2. None. So, oh, okay, look at this. So the Otyugh often has a partnership with something else in the area that's even stronger. So that's not the case here. This thing came here, and since it's the only thing that we rolled, it probably lost its old master, right? Whatever powerful monster it was living in symbiotic relationship with, since it's not, it can't depend on that anymore. It came to this area of the jungle, which means that there's probably a dungeon close by where this thing originated from. This gives us more to work with. Why don't we figure out how we're going to sell this to the players? What is the point? Why do they want to help out? What's the reward they're going to get? What is the payoff? So I'm going to look back at this. We have these tiger beetles with treasure type U. They don't really really seem to have a lot of treasure, to be honest. But we're gonna roll to see what they have. They do indeed have some copper coins. Okay, so we have 28 copper coins. Now they're not carrying around these coins clearly. You know, that's not what's happening. This is probably the remains of victims, or you know, previous adventure parties that have been attacked by the tiger beetles. So this tiger beetle nest has had some unfortunate adventurers, or people, probably even people of the town, who had tried to domesticate them, the remains of them, and some of the coins that are left over. Let's see. What did I say? I said, I don't remember what I said. Sure, 20 coins. 25 coins. Let's see, do they have any silver pieces? No silver pieces. Do they have any gold pieces? Gold pieces. Any gems? No gems. Jewelry? No jewelry. And any magic item? No magic item. So they don't get a lot of treasure really from dealing with the problem here, the O2. Hey, Discordia, monthly game club. They don't get a lot of treasure really from dealing with the conflict of the O2 and the tiger beetle. But this O2 had to have come from somewhere. And that's the threat. That's the real threat. So let's go look over here. Oh, is it low? Am I low? That's odd. Well, that's good to know. I may be just talking low, so that's good to know that I need to turn it up a little bit. Quite tempting to DM an inappropriate photo just because we can see your Discord. Oh yeah? Well, we're just going to do like that then. Take that, Hayes. Alrighty, so what do we need? Right. We're trying to design a dungeon. So we're going to figure out what the setting of this dungeon is. Hi, how you doing? And in the jungle, where the original, don't forget to roll for, I'm very glad that that is censored. That's okay, yeah. Lurk all you like. Further away from the town, there is a crypt. And in this crypt, there was something way stronger that was killing things, where our O2 here was feeding off of the remains. And it left, which is why the O2 wandered away from the dungeon towards this town, threatening its supply of beetles that it used. It was me. I killed them and ate their souls. Wow, I'm gonna have to make stats for you then, aren't I? That's crazy. So, let's see. We need a big monster now, though. If this O2 is as powerful as it is, and it was feeding off of something, feeding off of the reins of whatever something stronger was there, then we need something really big, huh? So let's get this D10, get this D4. Got a 4 and a 2. So let's see. Oh. Let's go look at that. So I rolled up Shadow. And we're going to roll a D12 of them. I don't like that number. It doesn't seem very threatening to me. It seems like the O2 is way worse. But these things are immune to damage, like mundane damage. They can only be harmed by magic. I'm going to roll it again. if I get more. It's 3. 3 is fine. So in our crypt previously, there were 3 shades. And adventurers who would come to this crypt who weren't prepared would get slaughtered by these shades. And our Otyugh here would feast on the dead adventurers. This is old school essentials, my friend. I love this system. It's like they took everything that was good about first edition, which is a questionable statement already to make, and they cleaned it up and made it fast and easy to understand. Like, you don't spend 3 hours making a character, you don't have to look up hours and hours of skills or feats. Like, it's just fast. You know, it presents a different style of play from most, you know, from 3.5 and onward, but I think it's fun, you know. I like the speed of play. I like the switch from feeling like a fantasy superhero to like a survivalist. I don't know. I enjoy this old school style of play, and I highly recommend to anyone who is curious to check it out. Right. So back to our adventure here. This crypt close by to this jungle. How many levels? Let's do like this. So there's only 1 level to this dungeon. It has 12 rooms. Let's do that. This is 12 rooms. Right. So this crypt, close by to this town, we had these 3 shades that were slaughtering any unfortunately prepared adventurers, unprepared rather, and this Otyugh was in the area eating the dead adventurers. But these shades are gone now, and that's something we'll have to figure out later. But the reason that this Otyugh is now terrorizing and threatening the supply of giant beetles of this town is because it's no longer getting its free adventurer meals at this crypt. So there are probably things in the crypt left over from these adventurers. Let's take a look. Now we need to put some serious treasure in there. How do I decide what kind of treasures this adventuring party had? Well, maybe it would help if we figured out how many adventuring parties were decimated by this by these shades, huh? Maybe that would help. So, I know there's a section of this. I have used it. Here we go. NPC encounters. So we'll say that a group of 6 adventurers were slaughtered in this crypt by the shades. So we need 6 different adventurers. There was a cleric among them. And this is just to figure out who died in there, so we can figure out the treasure that they may have had. Cleric. Has there been a loud like phone noise on stream? Well, I'm streaming with my phone. That's my phone right there. And if it gets text messages, you're going to hear those phone noises. Unfortunately. You know what? In the future, when I try to do this kind of streaming, I'll have to turn off all my notifications so it doesn't affect the stream. I didn't think of that. I should have thought of that. That's funny. But for now, you guys are just going to have to deal with when I get random text messages, which is unfortunate. So our party here has a cleric, it has an assassin, it has a knight. Cool. It's got a paladin. What's the difference between a knight and a paladin? I'm sure there is one. We're gonna have to look that up later. This party had a halfling. And a barbarian. So the only magic casting class here was this cleric. So this group of adventurers had gone into this crypt, got absolutely annihilated by the shades there, and this big creature, the Otu, had eaten their remains, probably left their gear and their treasure though. So this is an idea of the things that may be in this dungeon that are valuable that we can entice our players with, right? This is the reason they want to deal with this, because they want this fucking treasure. So let's see. Oh, we got to figure out their levels. All right, so we're going to say that these are all basic level adventurers. So they have a level between 1 and 3. So it should be a 3-sided die, 1 to 3. So this is level 2. 1 to 2 is a 1, 3 to 4 is a 2, and 5 to 6 is a 3. So the knight is the highest level guy here so far. Okay, no, the knight and the paladin were the highest ones here. The knight, the halfling, and the barbarian were all really high level. And they were slaughtered. So there's a chance, based on what level these guys are, that they have magic items per individual. So there's a 10% chance the cleric has something. Nope, no magic. The assassin has nothing either. The knight has a 15% chance. Nope. Paladin has a 5% chance. Nope. Halfling has a 15% chance. Nope. And the barbarian, no. So none of these guys had magic items. So we're looking at probably mainly just mundane equipment, or probably lots of gold. So I need this to be valuable for my players to want to go in here. So let's see, we're going to look at treasure type B. So there's no copper coins, there's no silver coins. There is Electrum though. Electrum. That's a thing you don't see anymore in these old fucking games. There is 3,000 Electrum. I think that the conversion is, yeah, here we go. So 1 Electrum piece is 2 gold pieces. So this is actually 6,000 gold pieces. And because this game tracks experience in gold pieces, if the players can get this treasure out of here, that's 6,000 experience they're getting for successfully clearing out this dungeon. And I haven't even rolled up all the different sources of treasure yet. There's no gold pieces. How about gems? There's gems, okay? So on top of these mountain of gold pieces, there's also 2 gems. Now let's what about these pieces of jewelry? No jewelry and no magic sword. So let's go look at jewelry. I mean gems. So 1 gem is worth 100 gold, one that's worth 100, and the other that's worth 50. So there's a little bit of a hoard of coins here that this adventuring party probably didn't manage to get out. They either brought it in and lost it all, or they went in there trying to get it, which makes more sense. So when we're rolling up more ideas about this dungeon that we're going to create later on, knowing that there is this many characters, we have an idea of the kinds of things left over that the players may encounter. And the real goal or the real reward of this dungeon is this massive hoard of coins. So at this point, we know that we have this town. We know the conflict that is threatening the town, which is this Otyugh thing here, which is eating their tiger beetles. We know that the town relies on tiger beetles as their domesticated animal, their beast of burden. And we know the Otyugh probably goes back and forth between the dungeon and this area where the town is. So at this point, we have the layout of an adventure, which is, I think, pretty damn good considering that I've only been streaming for like less than 10 minutes at this point. But there's enough here that you could, you can start an adventure at this point. I'm going to be right back. We're going to grab some graph paper. What's the point of having all this adventure prep if we're not going to go all the way with it? So we said already that our dungeon is 12 rooms. And we know already that the major thing here is the Otyugh. There's probably other things that live in this dungeon, but that Otyugh is the main issue. People have lots of different ways to make dungeons or create, to generate them. Some people will take their time and strategically and excruciatingly place every single detail in the dungeon. I'm not that person. I prefer to just wing it and see how it goes. There are lots of resources online for dungeon creation. Like there's this website called Donjon. I'm going to put a link here in the chat for anyone who may be curious. But there's lots and lots of ways to do this. I myself use this website called Dungeon Scrawl to draw out my maps. But when it comes to like design, oh shit! But nice to checking out so much. Whatever we do, keep it up. Hi, Faint. I don't think I remember you, but it's nice to have you in my chat. Hope you're doing okay. So right, we're gonna design this dungeon, this 12-room dungeon. So why don't we start with the entrance? We can use the tome of adventure design to help with this. Why don't we figure out the layout of our dungeon? Here we go. So here is an arrangement table. And we're going to figure out the layout of this particular crypt. So 25. So this says a single connecting corridor has one or more suites entering into it. The rest of the rooms in the area are part of the suites. Each suite is a self-contained group of interconnected rooms. Each room is not, of course, connected to all the others, but most rooms will be connected to more than one other room. So my interpretation of this is this hallway, and along the sides of the hallway there are these dungeons or these rooms that are split off from it. So that's the idea I have so far based off of that. So let's just make ourselves a little hallway here. And it doesn't need to be a big, epic, complicated map. Maybe with one room at the end, one big room. Or maybe with not even a big room, maybe with just a cave in. Maybe there is more to this dungeon than it's caved in. But for the purposes of our players, they only need this, and this cave in could be where that O-tube came from before, from the deeper parts of the earth. So we know that we have 12 rooms, because we rolled that up already, and this area, the entrance area, already counts as one of our rooms. So we have 11 more to work with. So at this point, we're just going to start adding in rooms. We'll work out the details later on of how these rooms are connected. But for now, just putting some shapes on the map gives us something to work with. Now, that description said that these suites go into each other into the corridor, and they're connected to each other as well. So I'll keep that in mind as I add in more rooms. So we've got 7 more rooms to work with. So at that point, why don't we start branching off rooms here and connecting them to previous rooms. I think at that point, there's enough here that we can start populating these rooms. So here's our dungeon layout. We have to figure out how things are connected. So at that point, you start adding doorways. And if you want to, do it procedurally, you can. Let's take room 2, for example. How many doors are there? There's 1. And for there to be 1, we have to make a decision now about where it's connecting. So if I just have this connecting here, that means that this room on its own goes to nowhere. We'll keep that in mind. What about room number 7? We already know there's one door there, so there's one extra door. And if I want this to connect to here, I'm going to say there's a secret door there. Here is the door. Don't rely completely on randomness when you're making your decisions about your dungeon. Feel free to like intercede with whatever the dice are saying if it works out for your plan. Because ultimately, like, there's no right or wrong way to do this, you know? There's no correct way, there's no... The only thing that's going to be wrong is if your players have a bad time. Like, that's it. And if they're not having a bad time, then you didn't do a bad job, did you? I'm just going to connect these things. Maybe we do like secret passage here. Secret door, secret door. So there's our little crypt right here. We know that the major danger in this crypt is this OTU. But it would be nice if we had more than just the OTU in this crypt. So why don't we look up or generate some more encounters? Now, that OTU is really, really powerful. In fact, this might be something really dangerous for the players to try and take on their own. Maybe their goal is to avoid this thing completely. This might be the kind of adventure where instead of the players rushing in to try and hunt down this monster, they are actively trying to avoid it. So they're listening, they're setting up distractions for it. If they come in here at an early level, their goal is to avoid any fight with this OTU because it's going to lead to instant death. But because I do want them to go in there and have a sense that there's a chance for them to succeed, like it's not instantly like deadly if they go anywhere, I'm going to roll up some encounters to see what else might live in this dungeon. So we got a 2 and a 9. So this says that we got some kobolds living in this dungeon. For those who don't know, kobolds are little shitty dog things that are very clever. And there's 44 of them in this dungeon. 2, 5, 7, 9. Total of 9 kobolds. So that's one of the things in this dungeon. Let's see what else. A couple of troglodytes. 4 of them. I want to have enough. I want to have 6 different things that may be occupying this dungeon. There's even more troglodytes. Oh, okay. So there's 5. There's 5 total troglodytes. One and a 2. Oh, so there's some more beetles here. That makes sense. I'm getting an idea all of a sudden. How many giant beetles are we working on? There's a D8 of them, okay. So let's get this 8-sided die. It's 3 beetles. So we have 4 total encounters possible, 4 different types. 3, 9. Some giant shrews. There's 10 of them. There's a B10 of them, so 5 of them. And we're left with one last spot. And for this, we've got 6 traders. So I'm brewing ideas right now. This Otyugh thing here is the main thing of this dungeon. This is the scary thing in this dungeon. And it goes out, it looks for easy prey, comes back, and rests here somewhere. We'll figure that out later. It's not important for the time being. But what is important is that now we have a layout for our dungeon for our players to explore. Probably need to add a couple more doorways so they can get in the damn area. Actually, that's fine, just like that. This separates the dungeon into 2 separate areas. I don't know if that's easy to see, but because of the layout that I have here, we have one area here that's easy to find. We also have another area here, and it's separated by this hallway here, which is interesting to me. So we have this layout for the players to explore. We have here a random encounter table for the things that they may run into. And we have this treasure here that we rolled up, which is the reason that the players will want to come in here. I'm going to say that this crypt, the cave in here, leads to a deeper part of the world, a place that we've may have known from other D&D games called the Underdark, which is like this big underground realm where lots of peoples exist, which would explain why we have these kobolds and troglodytes running around here. The thing that's interesting to me is these traders. Traders in this game are fighter merchants who collect things and sell things to various other people. So there's something else in this crypt that is worthwhile the trader's time. And when I'm looking at this, there are giant shrews, so maybe they come here to collect pelts of giant shrews. There's giant beetles, maybe they come here to try and collect the eggs and sell them to the town. But these traders are going to be the interesting encounter for our players when they run into them, because this is going to be not immediately hostile. You know, this is a chance for them to ask questions, to possibly gain allies, to get information. So that's very interesting. So we have here our map, our encounters. We have why the conflict is happening, and we have how the conflict affects this settlement right here. We have an adventure at that point. And depending on how you want to work on that, you can develop other parts of it more to different degrees. But as it stands right now, this would be enough to improv a session. Like, I would have enough here to improv a session at that point. Let me look over my notes here to see if there's anything that is an outstanding question. Why is this beer? Why is this beer so interesting? Let's see. We're gonna look up online. Fantasy booze generator. So I've got a list of 10 here, 10 drinks. And we're going to pick number 5. So the beer of this town is a deep purple, which reminds me of the band. And it has swirls of metallic color. Smells like death. We need to give it some kind of effect, I think, in order for it to be so special. I might look up over here. Let's see, we're gonna roll a D8 on this magic table here. Why is this beer so special? Okay, so this beer smells really bad, has this really rich, deep purple color with swirls of metallic silver in it. And the reason this is such a proud beer for this place is it provides +1 to saving throws versus death. So it's kind of like a little magic potion. We're gonna roll to see how long it lasts. 1 turn. So for 10 minutes after drinking this tavern's beer, you get a +1 to saving throws versus death. Which might mean that adventurers come here, get drunk on this beer, buy it, fill their wine sacks, and go out feeling a little braver. So there we go. We have a completed adventure now. All we need now is to fill out the rest of it, I guess. But that's something that is unnecessary for this stream. I just wanted to show how I go about creating an adventure. So the process, for those of you still watching, is roll up 2 random encounters, see how those encounters might come into conflict, see how that conflict might affect the areas around it, and try to tie in as much as you can from what you previously rolled. And the result should be an adventure outline, which is more than enough for an evening or maybe multiple evenings play. So anyway, thanks for hanging out, guys. That'll be the end of this particular stream. I hope that if it was odd, that it was at least entertaining. I'll attempt to do some more of this in the future, but for now, I wish you all a good afternoon.